welcome everybody. Thank you, Summerhill, for having me here. And I love to share my recent work and my explorations of recent times. And we've been looking at, we've had an online teacher training program, teacher development program for a year. And some learnings from there I'd like to share and look at how we could look at educators for democratic education. That's been a bee in my bonnet for many years, as Yakov and others know. And we've been looking at the possibility of how to develop a program for democratic education for adults in the democratic world. For children, when we're working with children, children take to naturally to the democratic practices and the culture of it, and it's natural to them. But for adults, it has been a tough journey, and wherever we have tried, that seems to be an issue. So I feel we have to work a little harder with the educators to make them kind of be themselves and be also part of a democratic culture. So I think the problem perhaps lies in, I'm talking mainly from my experience in India, but also looking at schools here and there and working with the adults in other places too. I find that in our families, very often the adults in the present schools who are maybe in their 20s, 30s, their family has been really dominated by their parents, other family members, and somehow still continues to be feudal. Though we call ourselves democratic in India and in many other places, the family structure has more or less been feudal in India. And when we go to school, when they have been to school, the school system is also rather overstructured, and the peers play an important role in their, especially when they're adult, when they're 6 to 12 years old or in their adolescence, the peers play a major role. And the structure of the school itself is so part of our mind that it's very difficult to get rid of it and look at it, from outside that, or take it out of our system. When they go to work also, work is also very hierarchical, and the pressures of targets, meeting targets, working for others, that seems to be also a rather undemocratic kind of a practice. And so often decision-making is from external sources, from extraneous kind of purposes. And that seems to be the culture with which the students come to us as wanting to be teachers, wanting to be parents, and wanting to work in a more or less a democratic way. So the loci of authority is outside themselves. They're always thinking about what others feel rather than what they feel, what others are going to think rather than what they want to express their own ideas. So this is something that we need to work through for the adult. So where am I and where is my authority coming from? Can it come from myself, and can I be accountable for that? That's one large area that we need to work on to help adults be democratic in their daily life. So the inner learning environment, whether it's a school or at home, the personhood seems to be very critical. And because when children come to us, how we respond, how we act, how we talk to them, all that, and in every minute, our personhood is playing up. And how does that, so one has to work on one's personhood to look at children or look at ourselves, and so that we can be democratic is one way, being free with the children, conversing rather than lecturing, talking to them instead of instructing. So how could we bring about that change in ourselves is an inner journey. And one of the areas that we need to work maybe is in all ourselves to make what is unconscious conscious. Because what we carry from our childhood stays with us. And unless we work it through and make that unconscious, emotional, under the surface area come to the surface and address it, we're not going to help ourselves to change. So this possibility of in a program where we work in a group is to reflect along with ourselves individually and also with others. And that feedback, I think, is rather important for when we work in a group, so that there is a factual feedback. There's not a judgment of others or a judgment even of ourselves, because very often we don't judge others with our, being conscious of some of the things that we are doing, but we are often judging ourselves very critically. So can we be kind to others and to ourselves also? And look at how we can live a full life and keeping to the uniqueness of ourselves. And so how do we help also the adults to be this way? Please feel free to ask questions or to discuss some things. So when we reflect, I think then some things that we are not very apparent to us may be showcased with in others' eyes, and if they give back feedback, I think then that helps us to be more conscious of where we are and what we are doing. So this it's both in the field of looking at ourselves both as individuals. In fact, 3 areas, both as individuals in small groups and in the collective. This is from IDEC 2018, the photograph. And some of you may recognize some people here. So the collective is also important and a source for looking at ourselves. How do we behave? What happens to us when we are in a big group? And also what happens in a small group. If this reflective analysis is not done, I feel what happens is that we have a knee-jerk reaction. There is a lot of diffidence, suppression, self-esteem is low because of course there are positive sides, but I'm looking at some things that where we need to work at. It's not therapy as such, though A.S. Neil may say that it's therapy from his writings, what I've read about. But it's bordering on that in a sense of to help people as adults to come out of where they are and go to their fullness of their life. So many of these surface when we look at in a classroom situation or in a learning environment, and are unable to be true to their deeper self. So who am I as a person in my deep self? And can I be that with the others? I feel that's a question that we need to work on over a year. It sometimes takes more, but at least over the year, we need to work at it in different ways, not just with lecturing or talking or therapy, but in many different ways whenever it surfaces. So if we don't do this process of reflective analysis, I feel we sometimes continue to be this teacher in quotation marks, and we're all the time getting things done by children, but we are a little bit outside of that. So we continue to be the teacher, the shower, the know-all, and though even in alternative schools, very often things have changed, but very often the adult's role continues to be a little bit on the old track. Maybe the context changes, there's no school, there's no big building, but even then, the adults, if we don't work with ourselves, all this may happen. So in professional development, whether it's a year-long program or short programs, I feel these unresolved feelings from childhood, which are residual from there, we need to look at it whenever they surface. And to work with, of course, as groups, as individuals, as individuals or in small groups and collective, because that makes a difference, a small group or a collective, because sometimes in a small group, you can be intimate. How you are a member of a group changes if it's a small group or a collective. And one has to experience that so that you work. Sometimes you can be intimate, but in a collective, you can't be intimate. But in fact, Zoom has taught us that over technology too, we can create intimate groups. We can feel cozy. We can feel comfortable. And it doesn't have to be only face to face. So even in small groups or collective, I feel the attempt is to be open, to be direct, to be able to talk to one another and to reflect together. And we need to look at where am I now? Where do I need to go? What do I need to do? And how do I need to do that? We may not have the answers, but that's the path of a spiritual development for the educator. And to resolve certain things as we go down that path. We can't carry them forever. So we have to drop some things and carry on, otherwise it does become burden. But what is this towards? What do we do with the spiritual development or the professional development? I feel it's, as a child's potential is underestimated, so also is the adult's possibilities for change and wholeness are grossly underestimated. And we need to work with the development of both the child and the adult simultaneously, side by side. It's not that I'm
Let's wait until the internet will connect.
Okay, we lost Amukta totally, but I suppose she will reconnect.
Yeah, she will connect.
At least I hope she will reconnect. I don't have her presentation. She hadn't sent it to me.
She'll be right back, I think. I think it's a small power cut. She'll be right back. Yeah, she's here.
Oh, great. Hello again, Amukta. Just, you're muted.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Yeah. Shall we start a little bit again?
Yes, fine. We can see you again.
Yeah.
You have to stop sharing again. Is everything okay?
Now is it on? You can see me? You can see the screen?
Not your screen, only you.
Okay.
Okay, now we can see your screen share. It's okay.
Yeah. So I think we were here on this slide. So could we look at, not think of adults, not think of ourselves as, semi-demigods or semi-things that we know all, we know everything, and we we are wonderful creatures, but to work side by side with the children and develop along with them, because we can't be perfect in any which way, and to accept ourselves as where we are, and that we also need to go ahead. And so it can be, in the learning environment, we are both learners. We say that in a cliche way, but I feel in a spiritual sense, in our deeper selves, we are all learning, not just intellectual or academic kind of learning, but about ourselves. And I think in that region of spiritual preparation or a spiritual development, that we work side by side with the children, and we are, and therefore, equal. And we have a lot to learn from them in this area. And this underestimation, I feel, is an issue with many children, many communities, many countries, where we see children that they can only do this much, and our own limitations, we limit the child. So if we just look at our own communities, I mean, can you guess how many are not going to school? We can't really call them uneducated, because I feel they learn in their life, but I'm using the usual term for that. So how many of them are not going to school? And how many that's a kind of an evident number, those who are not going to school. But those who are going to school and are undereducated, I feel those are invisible. We don't see that much. And can we make that visible, make it tangible, that how children are underestimated and undereducated? Here, education doesn't mean only academic, but in all areas, as social, academic, and emotional human beings. So those capacities are underestimated, and can we help learning and life be simultaneous, both for the educator and for the child? I feel that's the path we have to take towards scale. It's not enough to have our small schools. How do we take it forward to many more? One of the attempts we made in one of the states in India was we were able to reach, in a limited way, numbers. We reached all the schools in the state, about 37,000 schools in the state, and we were able to convert the classrooms in a way that children could learn at their own pace. Children could make a choice of their work, and the teacher and the child relationship the bond was in a way built, and the rigid structure of the classroom was broken. And that was limited in that area. But if we can extend that to reach the numbers as such in a more deeper way, I feel that's an attempt that we can all make in our own lives, in our own communities, as much as possible, which I think many are attempting. So that scale, how do we take our democratic education practices to scale so that we reach the so-called uneducated, and more so the undereducated children from now onwards? I could leave it open for discussion. If you want to emphasize on something, want to discuss something more, we could do that. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Tasha. Thank you for the presentation. And my question is, what role do you consider a teacher plays in a child's life? To what extent does it function?
I feel that what I see in our is like a guide or a facilitator. You're enabling something. You're not the actor. You're enabling the actor to act. The child is the actor, and we are the enablers as an adult. So we are not, if we make ourselves the enabler, then you're kind of creating the environment where the actor acts. So we are not the actor.
Wow, that's
You can see that in
very
the
beautiful
analogy.
answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation, ma'am. I just when I just signed in
You can call
into
me
this.
Amukta. You can call me Amukta. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
I'm from a village of Jammu Kashmir, India, and here
Yes.
I'm working with some young kids. But the thing you said that it's like children are very much democratic, but adults are not. So
Yes.
these kinds of issues I am facing here, like people are not trusting the non-conventional ways of teaching. What they need for their children, especially the parents, they need the traditional setup. They don't trust me, they don't trust what I'm saying, and they keep on complaining about that, why you are not going with the ABCD thing, and why you are not going with the why you are not focusing on mistakes and all the traditional setup they have in their mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in this case, sometimes I feel it difficult to deal with the adults. So what should be done then?
Yeah. One is, I feel the use of terminology is also important. I feel these are conventional schools, and traditional learning has been happening right from the time humanity began. So that's traditional learning. So if you see artisans or stone carvers or any skilled person or any human being right from time immemorial, we have been learning. I mean, we can consider that as traditional learning. But the schooling system that we have now, I would call it conventional schooling and that's only some 100 years old, hundreds of years old, but not thousands of years old. Traditional learning is thousands of years old, and this is only hundreds. So we can change things. So if we take it as traditional and it can't be changed, then we face this problem also, So if we say it's only now, it's only in some recent years that we've inherited this system. It's not there for time immemorial. And if we bring to consciousness that every community has been learning over these many thousands of years, and that is what we want to be in touch with, in a sense, and make it, of course, contemporary for today's life. I feel then we don't hit upon this problem with parents, and they also are able to see that this is not a burden that we have sitting on our heads, and we can't change it, we can't play with it, we can't do anything with it, but that is ours to play with. It is ours to work through and involve them. Very often, maybe we, in situations I've seen where we keep the parents out. As so long as the children come in and we take them as we enroll them, after that parents are kept out of schools, and the grumble is really their feeling isolated, feeling left out. If we can bring them into the education space along with their children, I feel that's a possibility that can cut through some of the barriers or hurdles that we do face. Many do that. Many have that issue. In the government schools in Tamil Nadu, what we did was, these are regular government schools. We invited the parents to observe. In the class, they had to schedule and fix an appointment and come, because there were so many children and so many parents. And once they observed the class, they said, I want to do this, I want to do that. So they became part of that process. So how do we include them, I think, is an issue that we can take.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amukta,
Thank you.
Yes.
I understand you say that you try to make the school more mixed generation, that also this will be a student in the school?
They could be, yeah. I mean, we did have that work when I was not as a student. Here in the government school, they came to learn some things, they came to teach some things. They saw that they could participate in some way or the other. But in another school where we had intergenerational learners also. And in fact, the children taught the adults sometimes. And the adults, grown-up people came to learn Hindi, or they came to learn a language, or they came to pass an exam. And they were part of the school also for some part of the day. So that's a possibility. They're learning something else, and children may teach them, they may teach children. That's it can be a wonderful environment.
Yeah, I think this is the future of the schooling.
It's a learning space, so for anybody.
And tell me, maybe I don't understand clear, but when you talk about how many student is not going to school, it was a metaphor or real? How many percent of student doesn't go to school in India?
See, when they're 6 and 7, 100% are enrolled. They're in the school records. But by class 3, by the time they're 8 years old, a large percentage drop out. By class 5, 30% drop out. Or they're enrolled but don't go to school.
50%?
Yeah, 30%. Yeah. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And those in school, those are visible,
Yeah.
Like once I was running a center, learning center in the, in a poor economic zone in Madras and Chennai and another.
Left school, begin to work?
They'll work, yeah. They help their parents. In the villages, in the rural areas, they'll work.
And connect, I think we saw it last time when IDEC was the first time when IDEC was, the first time when IDEC was in India, we go to see the project in Delhi, I think, that connect
working children,
streets that begin to learn. And it's going in India, or it's what's the situation?
Not only in India. Yeah, I feel everywhere, no? I mean, many places. I feel the children not going to school, people know about them, but those who are in school and who are having a bad time and not learning, I feel that's worse. They're happy that children are going to school, but the numbers that are undereducated there, I feel is very large, and the grossness of that is something that we need to look at also. See, working children, I feel that's, they're learning in their own context, and it's not child labor. So long as they're not exploited, that's fine, And they're doing mostly agricultural labor. The children who drop out, the majority are doing agriculture, working with their parents, or in craft industries. The exploitation is in minor areas, in some sectors. But the children in going to school, I feel that's a major crime in a sense, and who are not learning.
And maybe this is the reason that a lot of people left school.
Yeah, definitely. Because it doesn't meet their needs.
And I think the number in India is, especially, I don't think in Europe we have something like, I don't know exactly the number, but maybe in 5 grades no one left school, and maybe in the 12 grades 1 or 2%. That's.
But this under-learning, I feel, is all over.
Yeah, that go to school and not learning.
Yes, yeah. And not just academics, learning about life, that's
maybe we can say that they learn how to deal with the boring situations.
Yes, yeah,
They need to be
yes,
creative.
yeah. But the other context also, you are asking where else is this, where children drop out from school. I feel in South America, there are quite a few, numbers are high. So also in Bangladesh and Africa and Asia, some parts of Asia, not in Japan and Korea and Taiwan maybe, but and China may not be, but from other regions of Asia, also a lot of high dropouts.
Yeah, it's exactly the population that Kageki work with them in Japan.
Yeah, yes.
And tell me, so you have a lot of alternative education that try to work with these children that doesn't go to school?
Yeah, there are a lot of NGOs who work with children who don't go to school. But that's small compared to the number of children who are dropping out. I worked with the children in the fishermen's community. And so we had timings to suit the children. And we said that life and school should go together. So they were free in the afternoon. So we had like 2-3 hours of school every day in the afternoon. And whoever was free would come at that time. Otherwise, they were helping their parents to sell fish. And some of the boys would go fishing with their fathers. And they were happy to come to school. But if I had a full day school, they wouldn't have been able to come. And that's what the government insists, that it's a full day school and they have to go to a full day school, which does not make it possible for them to attend school. So they have to make a choice in a way.
So
And
when for example, I am a student and I come afternoon to 2 hours, how
yes.
what I'm doing at school 2 hours when I coming, how I decide what I want to learn. I have a class or it's individual.
So we had, there are 2-3 situations we've had, sometimes afternoon, sometimes night. So we used to keep the materials out, the books out, and the children, wherever they were and whatever they were interested in, they would choose. And they would pick and we would go with the children. Because that's what we used to tell them is, choose with your heart. Look around, look at all the material and choose with your heart. And that was always a right decision, and what an adult chose for the child was usually always wrong.
Wow.
So the children can choose. And even in a government school, when we worked with the government program, we set up a demo school and we used to bring children randomly from the local school, about 30 children from different ages, from class 1 to 5. And we used to have a demo class with these children. And we used to tell them that, see all this material, we used to put out all the books and the materials. Material means any kind of learning material, including a typewriter, some newspapers for cutting, magazines, all that, whatever we felt children could do some activities with and would be interested. And so we told them only 3 rules. We said this whole class belongs to all of us and you can work here as free as you want. And we said, go around and look at all the materials. And we said the same thing, choose with your heart and work with it as long as you want. And when you complete that, you put it back where you took it from. And we said that since we are so many of us working together, let's talk softly. So these were the 3 rules: talk softly, put back materials where you took them from, choose with your heart. And for 3 hours, we were all so busy and the children were so busy that the people who are observing, the trainers, the teachers, government teachers, they couldn't believe it was real. They said we had rehearsals with them and this was all a drama.
Wow.
So, and wherever we went, we did this. And children, it's a natural way of learning. And we had to have not one teacher, but we had to have 5 teachers because they were so interested to learn.
And it's open from morning until the night?
We had for 3 hours because they had to go back to the government school. So we had from say 9 to 12. And then they would go back to their school.
Yeah. These children also go to traditional school and also come to you?
No, only in this demo school I'm talking about, where we had like for the government training program to help teachers see what is the possibility of changing the whole government system.
So the demo school is a classroom inside traditional school?
Yes. And we took them out from there and brought them to the training place venue, and we set up like a demo school for them there. But in the fishermen's community, they used to go back to their parents' house. And the other place that I don't know.
You talk about the parents, they come to the demo school?
Parents also come, yeah. Parents also came to observe how their children could learn. Otherwise, they would not believe that their children could learn like this.
So it's like a school inside school?
Yeah, something like that.
Wonderful.
It was temporary, yeah.
Great.
But that helped to change the whole government structure. That demo school and those children helped to change the whole government structure. For at least 15 years, the government schools ran like that. It was called the ABL, activity-based learning, it was called, in Tamil Nadu. And from there...
Amukta, sorry, are you colleagues? What's the name?
ABL, activity-based learning.
Activity-based learning, okay.
Yeah. That the teachers named it that. It was not my name or anybody else's name. The teachers felt that was the name they wanted to give.
Fascinating.
But we've seen that happening in many areas, even in Karnataka, in one of the districts, about 60 government schools we took on. And so we had, these were the children who used to drop out. They were economically not poor. But in this district, a lot of hotels and restaurants are started by families from this district, Udupi restaurants, from those who know India. And the children would drop out from school and go to work in these restaurants. So the teachers too, when they saw children not functioning well in school, they would tell them, go and work in your uncle's restaurant. What are you wasting your time here for, etc. So we took on about 60 government schools there. And we had night schools for the working children. So the children would come. Now the school children or the working children could come to the night schools. They were enrolled in the government school for their name and for the record, but they used to come to learn in the night schools. So after work, that was after 6 to 9, they would come. So there too, we just kept the materials out, the books out. One adult was there, and the children would learn by themselves.
Wow. So the children decided to come in the evening. No one forced.
No one forced them. So sometimes they would skip going to the government school. And we had a understanding with the government school not to force children to come to school. And they could go either to their school or to the night school. So it is scalable in a sense. We can take this kind of education to scale anywhere in the sense. So, it's just that the adult needs to be prepared.
What limited you now? Why you don't build a lot of, what's the border that you meet, go up?
I feel this work, adults, preparing the adults in a way, I feel that's important. And And the government now, I don't know, they're not so interested. We have to again start working with them. It is tiring working with the government. In Tamil Nadu, it was exhausting because you have to all the time, that energy has to come from you to, transform their energy into action, like, so I think the limitation now is to help teachers or adults to be democratic educators.
Amukta, I
Yes.
have a question.
Yes.
Do you have, because you have been talking about the experience with the children.
Yes.
I would like to know if you have experience with the adults in this process of making them conscious of the unconscious.
Mhm. Is this Blanca speaking or?
Yes, this is Blanca from Colombia.
Yeah, hi Blanca. Mm. I think we've worked with that, with adults to some extent, but not deep enough maybe. And I feel what we also, Blanca and I work together in Blue Mountain Schools in OT. And Blanca, I think that Vipassana that we brought there is part of that, to work with so that it comes to the surface. We don't have to talk about it, but in all my programs, we do work with the teachers. And when it surfaces, I think we need to look at it. It has happened recently also in our this online program this year that we've had. There have been hiccups and been ups and downs. And we have to address it as it comes and help the students, the people to see where they are. Because also the focus is in our childhood is also not working in a group. The collaborative learning is not our experience. So how do we work as a group? How do we collaborate? Sometimes that works beautifully and something else does not, So every year some issues come up because that's where we are. And if there are two people, I feel that's some issues will be there, and how do we address that? And that's the growth for us and for the children, and for me as a trainer or as an adult working with the teachers. I don't know if others would like to talk about it. I think some are here. Nalini or Naga, I can see some names. How do we work with adults to make the unconscious conscious?
One
Because if I
is,
give you an example, yeah, Nalini, go ahead. Yeah.
one we do is make them think and see the root cause of certain feelings, certain emotions that they see during the course or through the journey, and bringing those experiences as a group, as a collective, bringing all the experience in front of everybody. So that helps each other to see where they are and understand better. And that also makes us think of where it is coming from. What is that unconscious that is bringing the emotion or feeling where we are at?
See, I can give you an example of what Nalini is talking about. Say, like many women in India are not, the environment is not conducive for them to express themselves. Let me put it that way. Some maybe it's a continuum. Some don't have that environment. Some are oppressed or suppressed about expressing their ideas. So they bring that relationship into the training center too. So am I allowed to talk? Am I allowed to express my ideas? Can I share my thoughts? I mean, everything is asking for permission, and they themselves are not sure of whether I can articulate it or not. And that is something that we have to work with. So let's talk, let's share, and let's discuss issues. Nothing wrong about it. And address those things that we are faced with.
So example of that, we did one small activity of, right, when they are 6 to 7 years, what is that comes to your mind from your childhood? Whatever it is, what is on top of your mind that you can remember when you are 6 to 7 year old? Maybe we can try that here if we have time or you're ready.
Yeah. We could. So usually what surfaces are fears of, of being allowed or not allowed, and anxiety. Those are the kind of stories that come up. Once it's articulated, that itself is, an empowerment. I feel once it's articulated, then it's out there in the open, and then they address it even without doing too much talking about it, which was for all of us. And it's not that we do it once, it's over. We need to do that every now and again, so that we are on, moving towards our own development as such. Blanca, would you like to share something?
Well, actually, I was thinking that in Colombia, there are some communities, original communities, that don't want school for their children because they have another process of transmission of knowledge where community plays the main role. And they don't want a school for the children, but the school is compulsory. So there is a very strong, there is a contradiction and there is a dilemma there. And the government and the NGOs and the financial organizations are always saying, but then these children will become working labor children. But they say, no, that's part of the process of transmission of knowledge that we have. That's our school, actually, that the children are involved in daily life activities and not in an artificial environment. So how to deal with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel when we went to New Zealand, I don't know if Yakov remembers, when we went to New Zealand some years ago, the people, the schools were, brought by the English to New Zealand, and the local people, and they were not allowed to use their language for many years. And then there were protests that we want to use our language. And so then the the original people from the land said we are losing our language and we need to learn to speak it in school also. So then the government, because of their protests, allowed their language to be spoken in the schools. And but they had to find the teachers. By then, the children who were there didn't know the language too much. Their parents knew a little bit, but not enough. And so only the grandparents knew the language at that point of time. And so the grandparents were invited to come to the school. And they didn't have the qualifications to be a teacher. So then they were given leeway that it's okay, we need to have the language in the schools. And that was considered and made as part of the system. Which I think after some years, when I looked at it again, in a few years, there were many magazines and newsletters, etc., in the local languages. So that their language, the connection to their language deepened and also spread.
Yeah, I think it's connect language and culture at all, because
yes,
if the basic idea of democratic education that everyone is different, so everyone need a different learning plan, and everyone can learn different. It's mix. It's connect. It's go against the idea that the core curriculum, and the core part of the core curriculum is the strong
language.
And we saw it also in the Amazonas when it was IDEC in Brazil, and they tried to take the core curriculum of Brazil and teach the people in the Amazonas, and they want to learn totally different things, including different mathematics, because they have different mathematics, and it's our mathematics is mathematics of 10, and they have the mathematics of 20, and that was very interesting. Why why we have 10 and why they have 20, and that's something that connect that everyone is different, and it's very important to keep the beautiful of the diverse of human being. Amukta, I need to go, so I want to thank you, and it's very exciting. Like every time I miss you from this moment.
Yes. Yeah,
Bye.
Thank you for coming in. We'll talk later. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Shall we stop here? If there are any other discussions?
Is there
Hi,
another
Mike.
question?
Hi, Mike.
Sharina has her hand up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Wow, it's amazing, and thank you for everything you're sharing with us. I just wanted to say that for Maria's question, so it's with the schools and the curriculum and the obligativity of the schools. It's kind of the same thing in Romania. So I was looking for alternatives when my first child just started. I mean, he was at school age, and I certainly didn't want him to go to school. And I was looking, okay, what's going on? What can I do? So obviously I looked into homeschooling at first, and I found out that it's not really legal in Romania. But then again, I found out that it's very legal to, I mean, you are obligated to have your child in a school. So it doesn't matter if your child is a distant learner. So I enrolled my kids into an American homeschooling school, umbrella school, and I just taught them what I felt, actually what they were leading me to teach them. It wasn't, I went from homeschooling to complete unschooling, and my mind was blown. I was going through a mad process. I didn't know what was going on. So so this is kind of the gate that I found, and I use it today too. I opened a small school, but all our kids are on paper, they're homeschooled. So they're enrolled in other schools. So this is the key that we found, and it's going really, really great. So if it's helpful, that's why I'm sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
I heard Maria's question exactly the other way than you did, Serena. Exactly the opposite way. Maybe it's me. I mean, sorry, Maria, we're talking about you. I thought that it's what I understand was that it is good for the children to go to school, but their parents do not allow them to. And what can we do about that? I mean,
that's different. Yeah, that's really different.
I mean, especially for these indigenous communities.
Yeah,
it is a big dilemma. I understand.
Sorry.
Maria, you want to clarify?
Education.
Blanca?
I'm sorry.
I think what she meant was indigenous communities don't want their children to go to the regular schools because it goes against their culture, and they have a different knowledge system.
Also,
but then isn't it possible that so the schools kind of adapt like a program that's just introducing some things into the culture? It's like going to a club, you know. It's like having I go to school, for example, and I want to learn dancing, and I just go to a club, and we can offer.
What you're talking about, New Zealand did that for their indigenous communities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, their argument is basically that the school is a place where it's an artificial place where knowledge happens at an intellectual level, and they have this transmission of knowledge that is a process related to life. So they really don't want their children to go through this artificial process that is not at all connected to life.
Well, who can blame them for the argument?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think we could learn from them.
Yeah, yes. We need to get there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually respect their views.
But what Amukta described with a night school, for me, in Greece there are night schools, but they're the government has them for students who have to work during the day. They're not obligatory.
Yes.
They are only for the 10th and 11th year. But night schools and this philosophy is really what school should be oriented to. When the school adjusts to the needs of the society and the needs of the students, not only in terms of subjects, that I'm interested in learning how to sew, for example, or how to make a newspaper, but also in terms of what time does it work every day, for how long does it work every day. This is how it is really, it makes knowledge approachable for more people. And change applicable for the whole society.
Yes, yeah.
This thing that the government insists that the schools are all day, and then the result of this is that a lot of children drop out. I mean, don't they understand that this is the wrong approach?
Yes, yeah. That's why we had to take a way out where they just enroll formally in the schools, but they may go to a night school or an evening school for learning. Yeah.
Especially if they have the ability to be more flexible with the subjects they can learn there. That's even more interesting.
Yeah.
I'm removing spotlight.
Yes.
So are there any other questions? Please
Anything to
feel free
discuss?
to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. When
All right.
do you have something? Yeah. Otherwise we can. I thought you had a question some time ago, Wendy, or something to discuss. Shall we close here then, Mara? They
Yeah,
don't know
sure.
your name. I don't know if people know your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to rename myself. It always happens. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm Maro. I'm Maro. Hi. Let me change that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let you go have some rest, Amukta, because there are a lot of interesting talks today again.
Yes, yes,
Until
yes.
late
I'll come
night.
to them. Yes, I'll come for them. Yeah.
Thank you
Lovely.
so much.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
been so great and very inspiring also.
Yes,
And thank you
yeah.
for your time very much.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Blanca, thank you for coming. It's very early morning for her in Colombia. And Serena, Naga, Srinivas, I don't know, many, Gracie.
Yes.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.